What is up, you guys? Welcome back to episode 3 of Box Office Buckets. Got another really great week of stuff planned to talk about. As apparently with every week, I come up with a new strategy on how I want to go about it. I really am going to try to keep this one shorter. Hopefully, it's under 30 minutes. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I'm hoping so. I've got pretty much for each subject about 5 big games this past weekend I want to run through pretty quick, do my top couple upcoming games, and kind of just my main idea from last weekend and about stuff upcoming, kind of what's been going on, especially with the sports. I have a lot of cool topics there that I'm really excited to talk about. And this week's episode is sponsored by Zero Sugar Mountain Dew. Not really, but if this blows up, Mountain Dew, send me a check, please. I will gladly accept it. But yeah, we got a lot of really cool stuff to get into, so let's jump right into the NFL. End up beating the Broncos 23-20. LA is 3-0, and like I talked about last week, I mean, they're a good-looking team, especially when you consider the improvements they've made defensively. Obviously, you have Justin Herbert. They're a really good-looking team right now, and it's still so early in the season. 3-0 is, you could win 3 games now and lose the rest of them, right? But I definitely think, like I said about inspiring confidence, if you're LA, you're just riding the wave. You're just going to keep winning until somebody stops you. And I think that's really good when you're looking for a team that I think kind of had a disappointing exit last year in the playoffs. They're definitely looking to inspire some confidence and to come in and say, we are that team, we have that ability to perform and to be successful. And I think if you're LA, you got to be very happy with that. The Broncos have had a tough start to the season, not been how they wanted. I still think they're a great defense. Bo Nix will get there. Just a little bit of a slump. It's been a tough schedule. They'll figure it out, I think. But obviously, you want to start better than what they've started. And probably the most shocking upset is the Browns upsetting the Packers with a 13-10 win. I did not have that on my bingo card. I highly doubt anyone else had that on their bingo card. The Packers have looked like one of the best teams in the NFL past couple of weeks, so to come in and lose to the Cleveland Browns, it really says two things, and it's that, like people are saying, anybody can beat anybody on any given day, right set of circumstances, and it also says that the Browns have a hell of a defense. I mean, they really do. To come in and hold a very, very, very good Packers team, that's a really great showing. And I think if you're the Browns, you're sitting back and looking, what can we do with this defense? How can we get this offense going to get what we need to get win-wise? Obviously not the best start to the season that they could have wanted, but I definitely think you're looking at that defense and saying, what could we do? Make the playoffs? Tough division? I don't know, but we'll see what ends up happening there. One of the most exciting upcoming games is the Chiefs and the Ravens, Sunday at 4:25. That's a really interesting one because they're both 1-2, and somebody's going to leave there 1-3, either the Chiefs or the Ravens. And I don't know who it would be a little bit more disappointing for, but that's one of those games that there's only one winner, or they tie, but probably only one winner 9 times out of 10. Well, not probably, it is 9 times out of 10. So that's going to be really interesting to see who wins. And even if neither of them have had the start to the season they could have wanted, and playing this early is going to be tough. They can still get there. It's not the end of the world, but it's going to be interesting. It's going to inspire a lot of questionable conversations on the internet. So we'll see what ends up happening there. We also have the Colts and Rams, 4:05. I think that's a really interesting matchup. See if the Colts can kind of keep this wave of Daniel Jones's resurgence going. And if you're the Rams, you're 2-1, you lose that close game to the Eagles this past weekend. I think they're really looking to establish themselves, and apparently now the Colts is a really good win. So I think that would be a really good kind of answer back after the Eagles. You're 3-1, but I don't think enough people are talking about the Rams. I think they are for sure a Super Bowl contender. I think they were right. They came closer to beating Philly than anyone else did. People forget that. And, win by 1, win by 100, it's still a win. Same thing for losing, but to be that close, and I think they got better over the summer. They're better this year than they were last year. If Matthew Stafford can keep it up and they can stay healthy, I definitely think that they are for sure a contender for the Super Bowl. So the main point that I really got this past weekend was, last year we talked about the year of the comeback or the year of the comeback quarterback. We saw that with Sam Darnold. He's labeled a bust. He goes into Minnesota, leads them to like 14 wins. We see the same thing with Baker Mayfield. Both of them came in and had amazing seasons. And, you look at conversations that this kind of inspires about how important is the quarterback and how important is the situation. Because you look at these quarterbacks and say, so-and-so that's not winning games here, if you put him somewhere else, he probably could win games and vice versa. When C.J. Stroud won Rookie of the Year, all the conversations were, if C.J. was on the Panthers, would he be as good as he was on the Texans? And would Bryce Young be better on the Texans than on the Panthers? I don't know the answer to that. I think the answer is probably undoubtedly yes. I think Houston has a much better organization than Carolina did and does. But you still never know. There's a lot of questionable elements there. But I just think it's so fascinating. You look at Carson Wentz. I mean, this was a guy that nobody really wanted. Came in and blew out the Bengals 48-10. Marcus Mariota operated the Commanders' offense with Jaden Daniels out supremely. And I think that's just part of they're so similar. Marcus Mariota is probably the closest backup to being a starter, I think, right now. He's not going to win you a Super Bowl, but there's a lot of teams out there that could do a lot worse, are doing a lot worse than what Marcus Mariota can give you. I still think he has some moves, and he has clearly shown that he has gas left in the tank. And I think if you're Washington, you're looking and saying, let's give Jane Daniels some time. Let's make sure he's fully healed up and not rush him out there. And you can be happy knowing you have Marcus Mariota coming into the upcoming weekend. But Sam Darnold is doing great in Seattle. He's kind of continuing that trend. Obviously, Baker Mayfield is doing well. Bryce Young comes back, 30-0 win over the Falcons. And I just think we're seeing a lot of quarterbacks that people have kind of written off, come in, be successful, and have that moment in the sun. Like I talk about with the Colts, Daniel Jones 3-0. And I think him and Carson Wentz are very similar. They're both very physically gifted athletes who can do a lot of really great stuff on a football field, but then things get tough when the plays break down. They make these just bonehead, dumbass decisions, and that's where they really run into trouble. But if they can lock in and make the decisions that they need to make and be smart and not be a dumbass, they can be very successful quarterbacks, especially when they have the weapons that they have in Indiana and especially in Minnesota and with the coaching of Kevin O'Connell. Minnesota just makes quarterbacks better. I'm fairly convinced you could put pretty much any starting quarterback there and they would at least be solid because they are just amazing the way they have built that. And I think that's just a testament to that organization and to build a system that you can say, hey, bring whoever you want in and they are going to succeed here. And that's something that if you're looking at a big free agent quarterback, if you're looking something like that, that's something quarterbacks look at and say, hey, I want to go there. Building that organization that players want to play for, not that are made to play for because you're paying them, obviously. But yeah, I think it was a really interesting weekend for the NFL. A lot of blocked punts and kicks, apparently. I don't know what that's about, but that's fascinating in and of its own self. But we got a lot of really cool stuff coming up, so stay tuned. We're going to talk about it. And yeah, that's all I got for this. Our next topic is going to be college football. Had a really exciting weekend this past weekend. Got a lot of really great stuff coming up. And so yeah, let's jump right into it. So one of the biggest games we had was Indiana beating Illinois 63-10. That is insane. Ranked 19th Indiana beating number 9 Illinois. I think that is fascinating, and I think you're looking at, are these teams contenders? Are they flukes? Illinois is going to have a hard time overcoming that. I'm not saying they can't. If that's your only loss, it's not the end of the world. But getting rocked like that is not what you could have wanted if you're Illinois, trying to say, hey, we're legit, we're contenders, we deserve to be here. You got blown out. 63-10 is insane. For a ranked matchup that good for two potential playoff teams. And I think if you're Indiana, you can't be much happier. And I pretty much asked the question, at what point do we just give Curt Cignetti his flowers? I mean, they lose in the playoff. Everybody says, oh, they're frauds. They didn't play anybody. The guy wins. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, great season last year. Comes in with a new team this year. Still succeeding. Is still very much they're playoff contenders now. I think it's undoubtedly they come in and beat Illinois and Indiana should switch. Illinois should be ranked about that 19th, 20th range. Indiana should be top 10. I mean, that is, to come in and beat them the way they did is incredible, and you can't be much happier with your performance if you're Indiana. Miami beat Florida 26-7. Not incredibly surprised. I think Florida kind of sucks. No offense, Florida fans. I know it's disappointing, but they haven't impressed me. They have talent. They just haven't lived up to it. They're very disappointing. I expected them to be better. But if you're Florida, who cares? You're making millions, and I don't know why you would care what a guy on the internet is disappointed with you, but I am. So I may as well just throw that out there. Miami continues to look like a contender. They look like a really good team, Carson Beck. Not much more to say about Miami. They play Florida State in a couple weeks. They both continue to be undefeated. That'll be an amazing game. It's one of those games where they both kind of deserve to win, but there's only one winner. In college, there's no ties, so there really is only one winner. Texas Tech beat Utah 34-10. Texas Tech, much like Indiana, is a kind of middle-of-the-pack ranked team. I think they're 16, 17. Thoroughly establishing as Big 12 contenders and playoff contenders with that win over a very good Utah team that I also think, is a Big 12 contender. So to come in and have that really dominant win, to really come in and say, yeah, we're legit, we can do this, we can beat good teams, is really big for that program. And I'll be really interested to see where they kind of go in the future. Missouri also beat South Carolina 29-20. That might be a scoregami. I don't know. That's a random score. I don't know if I've really hear about 29-20 a lot. But really fascinating entry. I think Missouri, it's interesting to me about Missouri because I feel like the past couple years they've been expected to be really good. Obviously, a couple years ago, beat Ohio State in that bowl game where people were like, if it was a 12-team college football playoff, they would have made it. But I think they've kind of disappointed the last couple of seasons, and they come into this season with less expectations, and I think it's just so ironic and kind of funny that they're exceeding expectations now that they have no expectations. Explain that? I have no idea. And I think if you're South Carolina, they're just like Florida. You're disappointing. I think you can be better. I think you're still a very good team, but just not what you wanted if you're South Carolina. That state's just having a rough year. Clemson, man, 1-3. What are you doing? I mean, did their players even get the salad bar now? I know they don't get paid, so Dabo's just like, come on down and get the free ice cream machine. Are they even getting ice cream now? They're going to get empty glasses of water. They're literally just going to get plates and pretend to eat in that situation. I mean, you're 1-3 with a team that everybody thought would be really good. So it's just very disappointing starts for both of those programs. I still think they can turn it around. You're obviously probably out of the playoff contention, but you can still get a good bowl game. Still got plenty of games left to play. Let's not make it the end of the world. But very disappointing for those two teams. I have a couple of really great matchups coming up. Oregon and Penn State both are undefeated, so I think they're both kind of programs that are obviously very talented, but people are kind of waiting to see them play somebody real. Neither of them have any big wins on their schedule yet. So I think that'll really establish either Penn State as a top 3 team or Oregon as a top 3 team, which I talked about last week. I think Oregon can be, and I think Penn State can be as well. But it's going to be really fascinating. We have Alabama and Georgia. That's always a good game. Couple of pretty fierce rivals. Alabama's looking to kind of get that win to erase the Florida State loss and be like, hey, we're still contenders, we're still here. Still only have one loss, could for sure make the playoffs. And Georgia's obviously just looking to build off that win against Tennessee. I think if Georgia beats Alabama and beats Tennessee, I think there's a strong argument that they're the number 1 team in the country. I don't know if they will get that from the committee, but they should. They very well should. If Georgia beats Tennessee and then goes and beats Alabama, they're the best team in the country right now, given on all the stats and the numbers and the wins that we know. A sleeper game that I'm pretty excited about is Ohio State and Washington. They're both undefeated. I was able to catch a little bit of the Washington State game Saturday in between Miami and Florida because that wasn't really that interesting. Damon Williams, their quarterback, looked really good. I think Washington's interesting because they were the national championship runner-up a couple years ago, and now it's just like no one has any expectations. But they're undefeated, and if they could come in and not even win, but just test Ohio State, be in a close game, I think that could get a lot of national eyes out there to Washington. and really kind of establish them as a team that should be ranked, I kind of think. And maybe they'll get there. They're going to have opportunities in the Big Ten to say, hey, we deserve this. We deserve to be ranked. But I've been keeping an eye on Washington. I'm very interested to see what they do. And I think Ohio State just needs to come in and take care of business and establish that they should be the number one team that they are right now. So I think, but if Georgia wins and Ohio State wins, that's going to be a tough conversation. Is Ohio State number one? Is Georgia number one? I don't know. Tell me in the comments. You could go both ways. There's a lot of good options there. But the most interesting thing I think right now in college football, my main point would be we're really going to start finding out, as we did last week, as we are going to continue to find out who the contenders are and who the pretenders are. Indiana right now is a contender. Illinois clearly exposed to be a pretender. We had Oklahoma and Auburn, right? Oklahoma established themselves with that win over Auburn as a contender, top 10 team, a team that deserves to be there. And if you're Auburn, I don't think they're a pretender, but I think they need work. They need to improve. There's going to be some things that they need to look at in the film room and say, hey, we got to fix this. We need to improve this. And I definitely think they could still have a very good season, still have, I don't know if they're going to make the playoff, but it's still possible. So I think they just need to work on a little bit of stuff, improve a little bit, and they could definitely still get there. But really great weekend for college football. A lot of good games. Got a lot of good games coming up, and I'm just so excited to see what happens and what comes of so many of these programs. And yeah, that's about all I got for that this week. That's not the end of college football because I have a main point on here that I somehow managed to completely forget about. Very disappointed in myself about that. But Mike Gundy was fired today out of Oklahoma State after like 20 seasons. I wouldn't say it's incredibly surprising. I would say it's somewhat surprising. I'm dead serious. I saw like yesterday he was like, oh, my job's fine. Apparently not. He's out. I'll be interested to see who they look at for coaching. I definitely think it's going to be tough to follow up Gundy, who was very solid for 20 years. I don't know who exactly is going to be lining up to play coach at Oklahoma State. But who knows? Maybe they get somebody good. They get some young guy that kind of needs to prove himself a little bit. I think that'll be a really interesting search, and I think it'll be big on the organization to build somewhere that somebody wants to come coach in, wants to follow up Gundy with. I think that'll be difficult for them, but I think if you can establish some boosters, we're going to take care of you as a coach, all those types of things, I think they need to build an environment that makes somebody want to coach in. And, I just want to say about Mike Gundy, I will always be grateful for giving us one of my favorite speeches or quotes of all times. And I wrote it down here so I could read it word for word. From last year when Ollie Gordon was arrested for a DUI, and they asked him to give some comments. And on one of his star player getting a DUI, he said, and I quote, "I'm not justifying what Ollie did. I'm telling you the decision I made." And this was on his decision to not suspend him. I thought, okay, I've probably done that 1,000 times in my life, and it was just fine. So I got lucky. Reminder, we're talking about DUI, driving under the influence. That's illegal, immoral, bad, not good. No one should do it. People die all the time of DUI. So admitting as somebody who is supposed to be leading young minds and molding athletes to be prepared for the world to say, it's nothing I haven't done 1,000 times, is the craziest thing I have probably ever heard from a coach. The fact that he didn't get fired for saying that blows my mind. And listen, I'm sure it happens. All right, I'm not naive. I know it happens. But to admit that 1,000 times about DUI is insane. The PR people at Oklahoma State will have a stroke hearing that. That is terrible. But I will always be grateful for that soundbite. I think that's insane. But he was an insane coach. He's a fascinating character. And I hope he ends up somewhere where he can keep giving us great media bites for years to come. But now this is really the end of college football, I think, if I don't bring it back again. So yeah, peace, guys. All right, for basketball news, I called it basketball news because I do have some college basketball stuff to report finally. Some big news. I guess there's always something to report, but that's more of a stain on me as a reporter that I just don't know what I'm talking about. But let's get into it. Fred VanVleet has an ACL tear that all sources are looking like he's going to miss the whole regular season at least. I think it's a big blow to the Rockets. Obviously, traded Jalen Green this summer. To lose both your starting guards from last year, essentially in one summer, is not great, considering they don't have a ton of great guards on the team. But it does open up a lot of minutes for Reed Sheppard. For any Reed Sheppard believers out there, I'm one of them. I'll be really excited to see him get minutes and get his chance. And he's going to have a chance because who else are they going to be playing there? But it's a big blow for Houston. I still think they're a good team, but they will have to figure that out. And it also brings up a really interesting idea. My mind immediately went there. I've seen a lot of stuff on social media immediately go there and beg the question. The Rockets need a point guard. Russell Westbrook needs a team in America. Is it a match made in heaven? I'm not the biggest fan of Westbrook. I think he is just not that great of a player anymore. But Houston doesn't have a ton of other options, and I think Ime Udoka is a very good coach. I think if he could get Westbrook in, contain him, keep him under control to make those good decisions, and surround Russ with great players, which Houston has. They have a ton of talent. Şengün, Jabari, Tari. I obviously bring in Durant this past summer. There's so many others that I'm forgetting, but they have a very good team, I think. If you bring in Westbrook, keep him kind of under control, keep him playing smart basketball, I definitely think that could be a really good signing, especially compared to the options, which are not many. But I'll be really fascinated to see what comes of that. And the thing that completely slipped my mind when I originally thought of it, it would also reunite Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook and Steven Adams, which I think is really cool. I'm not either of their biggest fans, but I do think it is really nice. And I think kind of having a one last ride with Westbrook, with Durant, competing for a championship, which I think Houston still can do. I think they can still, for sure, compete for a championship. I'll be really interested to see what comes of that. But I think that's a cool story. That people would watch that. If you're Adam Silver, make it happen. Just give him a little nudge. Give him a little financial constraint. If you're not going to do anything to the Clippers, not much has come of that recently. At least make this happen. Come on, let's give Westbrook and Durant one last championship run. I think that would be so cool. And it wouldn't be crazy if they did it. Houston wins. They both get their rings. Not in Oklahoma City, but in Houston. I don't think people in Oklahoma City care because they're the reigning champs. They don't really give a shit. But I think it's really fascinating. So we'll see what comes out. We'll see what Houston decides to do in their point guard search. And some bigger news for college basketball that came out. Bruce Pearl steps down as head coach of Auburn. That one sucked. I did not see that coming. I think of a lot kind of when Saban stepped down. Obviously, kind of different levels, but Bruce Pearl's such a great coach. He's a fun guy. I've always enjoyed him. I've always enjoyed watching his teams. So I think that one kind of hurts on an emotional level. You lose a great of the game. I think that's kind of sucky. But his son, Steven, will take over, which I think is interesting. So we'll see what that means for the college basketball landscape. Kind of a sad day. But, Bruce Pearl's like I said, he's a fun guy. And I can't wait for March Madness. I'm sure they'll get him on all the talk shows before and after the game. So just to hear a lot of his anecdotes and his mind and his analysis for the game, I think will be really cool. So it's sad, but that's something I'll very much be looking forward to. And I'll be very interested to see how Auburn recovers from this. There's highly a world where they just keep it rolling. It transfers from father to son. And I think that's a fascinating story in of itself, just to kind of continue the real life coaching tree, right? The family tree, the coaching tree, they're the same. So I'll be really interested to see where that goes and where that ends up for college basketball. We're getting close, people. NBA, college basketball, we're getting close. It's getting there. I can't wait. I'm so excited. I love basketball, probably more than anything. I can't wait to talk more about it. So yeah, we'll get there, people. So for movie and TV news, a lot of big stuff. Obviously, I feel like there's always a lot of big stuff. But let's just jump right into it. So for this past weekend, Demon Slayer still came in first, ranking in about 17 million. like I said, I'm not super educated on that. If you are, post in the comments about it, educate me about it. It's not my number one thing, but him came in second with about 13 million, followed up by The Conjuring with right under 13 million as well, which is fascinating when you look at that's him's opening weekend. The Conjuring is in weekend 3, and to almost still be number 2, really number 1 in the U.S. is fascinating. It's just got such a draw. It's got such a big pull on people. I loved it. I thought it was awesome, so I can fully understand why. Him was not so lucky. I have not heard a lot of great stuff from critics about it, but then again, who really cares? Go watch it yourself. Make your own opinion. Don't let other people tell you what to think. And if you like it, just say you like it, Listen, critics, they aren't different than anybody else. We're all just people with opinions. They just have a louder microphone. But they aren't, it's not special, right? Go see it. Maybe you like it, maybe you don't, all right? Form opinions for yourself. Form reviews for yourself. That's what I'm doing. I have no certification. I just talk about stuff I like on YouTube. It's pretty cool. You should try it. But Downton Abbey and The Long Walk both pulled in about $6 million each, which for Downton Abbey is good. The Long Walk is still pretty disappointing. I think they're about probably $18 million total. It's pretty disappointing. I saw it the other day, and I don't want to give away too much, but I have never been so depressed and inspired at the same time by one movie. It was amazing. It deserves way better than it's getting. But I think with being such a great film, it probably will find a big home on streaming. I hope it does. The acting, the filmmaking, it was incredible. I'm not going to give away too much. Go watch it. Go support your local theater. But Long Walk is pretty great. So upcoming this weekend, we have some really interesting stuff. We have One Battle After Another, which is Paul Thomas Anderson directing Leonardo DiCaprio and Sean Penn. I think that's fascinating. I can't wait to see it. I've heard a lot of stuff that it's, the best film of the year. So much, very exciting movie. I like it. It looks quirky, and I like that. I like something that doesn't try to be too self-serious, somewhat serious. Obviously, it's a serious subject matter, but I'm really excited to see it. I think it looks really cool. And I'll be excited to see how it performs at the box office. Could become a sleeper hit. I don't know. It's always hard with movies that are a little bit longer because it's hard to get people to sit for that long, and especially with drinks and popcorn and stuff. I don't like to go to the restroom, so it's like you don't want to sit and eat stuff the whole time. But that might have no bearing. It might not matter. Oppenheimer was 3 hours, and it did great. So we'll see. We also have The Strangers, Chapter 2, starring Madeline Petsch. I had never watched the first one. I didn't watch the first one of the trilogy. I watched the original, The Strangers. I'll be interested to see how this goes. I was a little confused because I feel like the original didn't come out that long ago. And there was already a sequel in 2019 that didn't, and I feel like to come back what is it? I think 16 years later, and back, we're going to reboot it already. But not just one reboot, 3. I don't think anybody loved Chapter 1, but we'll see. I thought the trailer looked great. The trailer was hyping me up. I was cracked out about it for a while. But, we'll see if it's better as a film. I've learned with trailers, some of these movies have better trailer editors than film editors, all right? They put more effort into making a good trailer than making a good movie, which if the trailer's good and people come out and pay money, that's all they really care about at the end of the day. So, hey, maybe it's a win. But I'm excited to see how it does. I will watch it. I don't get it. A reboot trilogy, really? But maybe it's good. I hope it's good. Maybe it's great. Maybe I love it. Maybe I'm like, man, I was wrong. I'm big enough to admit that, right? But yeah, I will watch it at some point. I will talk about it on here at some point. My review on it. But we also have Gabby's Dollhouse. If you're looking for the movie, Gabby's Dollhouse, the movie. Sorry. You're looking for something a little bit more family friendly. I don't know that much about it, but it looks cool. If you're looking for something, you take your family to, go see it. Go support your local theaters. That's essentially the point of this. We also have Catherine the Great, starring June Squibb, who she's one of those actresses that everybody knows her, but if I say that name, people have no idea who I'm talking about. She was Sheldon's grandma on The Big Bang Theory. She was also Hubie's mom in Hubie Halloween. One of the funniest characters I've ever seen. She is amazing. She's awesome, and I love that they're getting her some of these big roles. She's a leading lady in a film. I think that's so awesome. I can't wait to see it. She's hilarious. I just think it's so fascinating. And we'll see how it does. I'm really hoping it becomes a hit. I think she's awesome, and I think that movie will be awesome as well. So for TV, a lot of the same stuff. Alien Earth wraps up. I'm filming this on Tuesday. It'll wrap up tonight. So it'll be wrapped up when I post this video on Thursday. Peacemaker, we're going from episode 5 last week. We have 6 this upcoming week. Obviously, of 8 episodes, we're building up to the finale, getting closer. Dark Wolf finale will have been this week. I haven't heard a ton about it, but I do think it looks really cool. I definitely want to check it out. Like I talked about, Taylor Kitsch is an amazing actor. Task, episode 3 to episode 4. I think that just looks so cool. I love the idea of limited series, and I think people do too, because I think a lot of times TV shows become, oh, well, I don't have to watch it when it's coming out. I just have to watch it for the second season. And it becomes this kind of sequel mentality of like, we only care about it for the new show. And I feel like when you do a limited series, it's like, this is it. This is what we have. This is the best we have to offer, and you're offering it right here and now. And so it makes something that everybody wants to watch, that everybody needs to watch. And I think that's how you really build a cultural phenomenon. Like we saw with Shogun, that was very popular, won a ton of awards. Gen V will release episode 4 Thursday. They released the first 2 episodes last week. I haven't caught up on it, but I think it looks really cool. I love the first season. The first season was awesome. I wasn't too sure about it, how they would kind of work it into the Boys universe. I thought it was really great. I can't wait to see what season 2 looks like. Obviously, if you saw the end of season 1 and the Boys season 4, how they will kind of end up managing this plot, I'm very interested in. But I think it's got a great cast, characters. So I can't wait to see it. I think it's going to be gnarly, fun, and I can't wait. As well as Tulsa King, which releases on Sundays. Released episode 1 last Sunday. It released episode 2. It's upcoming Sunday. I'm stuttering for some reason now. Starring Sylvester Stallone. Season 3. Very popular. I've heard a lot of good stuff. Just kind of continues that Taylor Sheridan Paramount Plus universe. That just sounds insane. Think about that. Like, that's crazy how many shows he has. And to build all that and that they're still going and they're still popular and they're still successful, I think that's just a testament to his ability to creatively create things. We're talking about TV shows, duh. But I can't wait to see a lot of this stuff. There's so many good movies. There's so many good shows out now. It's so hard to catch up on everything, which is ironic considering I'm trying to cover this and I don't even really know what I'm talking about. But I just like talking. But a lot of good stuff to see. If you're interested in something, go see it. Go support your local theater. And yeah, I can't wait to get back next week. We'll see how some of these movies do at the box office. We'll see how some of these shows are being reviewed, how fans are looking at them, and we'll have even more cool stuff to talk about. So yeah, that's all I have for this time. I've tried to keep it a little bit shorter. So tune in next week. Tune in this week, please. But I can't wait to talk about this stuff. Can't wait to see you guys again. All right.